We've tried twice to stabilize that area and have been unsuccessful to a degree, although we do have plantings in those bioretention areas. To hinge approval of those bioretention areas to a condition that's completely out of our control, which is the water levels of the 10 Mile River, would put us in a situation where we would never be able to stabilize. What really needs to happen is we need to complete, or the town needs to complete, the dredging project of the 10 Mile River, which I think has been in the works for some years now.
The applicant completing these items was not contingent upon the town completing dredging. The applicant seems to be tying it to the dredging. However, that is not my recollection reviewing the project at that time, that one was contingent upon the other. We've asked the applicant to document that they came to the board to discuss these changes during the construction process. Beals and Thomas was not informed that these changes were going to be occurring, so it's fallen upon us here at the 11th hour to try to make sense of the changes that have been made.
However, we have folks that are in hotel rooms, and some of which very shortly will have nowhere to go.
Oh, wow.
And now,
Excuse me, you may not speak.
You'll
No.
have your time.
what we're asking for is an opportunity for occupancy of buildings A and C. I can assure you that the success of this development and Jones Street heavily relies on the occupancy of Building B. I think that also we've earned some trust equity. We've responded to every request the town has made. We've communicated openly throughout this entire process, and this has been a challenge process. It's changed ownership 3 times. Town personnel has changed several times. We found ourselves trying to complete this project in the midst of a global pandemic, which was not easy. We lost months of time. We lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on expedited shipping and alternate manufacturers and work shortages.
I'm ready to ask questions.
It's been very challenging, and we're looking for some relief here so we can finish this.
I don't have anything in my records or the town's records that indicates any attempt last year to contact the planning board to make sure that or to talk about trying to change things or make amendments to the plan. I don't see that anywhere. You could have last year, even during the pandemic, we met virtually. We didn't stop meeting, but I have no record of any contact. We still had the planner, Nancy Runkle. If you communicated with her, I'd like it if you could provide copies of that, because I don't have anything that says that.
And we understand that this is atypical.
Beyond
And that it's been a little bit of a mess. Like, we're aware of that. When Jones Street came on, we've worked very hard. I think some of you know Adam Goodrich. But I think we're very close to being able to provide like a Class A asset to this town. And we're stuck. Without this partial approval, which is all we're asking for, I'm not sure how we take the next step forward.
My name is Stephen Clapp. I'm an attorney with offices in North Attleboro. I represent Stephen Banks, who is an abutter on this project. He lives on the street that's right next to the property. I've represented them since January, and their house has been destroyed by an increase in groundwater. The 10 Mile River has not flooded since January. It does not flood onto this property. This property floods because it doesn't do the right thing to its runoff. The runoff is stored in the parking area, right up behind my client's property. And my clients have been asking these people for relief for years. I've written to them. They've stonewalled my clients, they've stonewalled me, never contacted us at all. My engineer has filed a report that says that as designed, this system does not function.
I had signed up in March with a promise of 2 months free to move in by May. I have now been adjusted from May 4th to May 19th to June 4th to now a day by day to we'll just see what the board says. I've also felt entrapped because I've been promised this space since March without this ever being a possibility. I would like to know if that temporary occupancy order can at least be set so the people who are currently waiting patiently to go into the property can at least help make sure that what work needs to be done, the finances that need to be put forward to get that done, can be made.
My basement has been flooded since April. Even this last rainstorm, an inch of rain it was collecting in the parking lot where they already had painted lines, an inch. Now, should we get any of those tropical storms, you're gonna completely take us out. The only thing we're surviving on right now is electricity. Why should they be allowed to have people in there with hot running water and air conditioning, and I don't even have that? They were flooded. I lost my air conditioners in the basement too. And you keep asking us to be patient and throw in sympathy. Do you know what's growing in my basement? You know that black mold causes health issues, right? It gets in your lungs. It gets in your lungs and it causes a pneumonia and you could die. And I believe my quality of life should be taken care of first. We didn't ask for any of this. We've been living here over almost 30 years. When am I gonna have clean air? When can I turn a faucet on and get hot water? Take a shower? I'm knocking on the Sun Chronicles door. And then I'm going to Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 12, and I'm going, oh, they'll love a good human interest story. I will take it to the Attorney General's office. I will take it to Elizabeth Warren.
I am also pleading for something to be done regarding the lease that I have signed, but I too am displaced, have about 2 weeks' worth of clothing in the trunk of my car because I was told that I was only going to have to be displaced for a matter of a couple of weeks. And I went out of the country in the meantime. While I was out of the country, I found out that I no longer have a place to live when I come back on June 9th because it was extended again. I'm hoping that something can be done with the certificate of occupancy as well, so that I have somewhere to go. And while I appreciate all of the concerns and issues of the neighbors, there are people here that also need a place to live.
I'm a resident of 16 Holbrook Ave. I also speak quite frequently with my neighbors. You have several elderly people who live on that street. You couldn't compensate for the water during a drought. What are you going to do when we have regular average rainfall? Every house on that street has been affected. I understand that these people signed leases, but perhaps it was your responsibility not to have people signing leases before you were ready. Don't plead for compassion or leniency until you give it to your neighbors. Don't tell us how you're going to be a good neighbor. Be one.
Excuse me.
You know, we've been hearing this kind of testimony from our neighbors at previous hearings. We are aware of the hardships that they're dealing with. However, you know, I would point out that even in the Beals and Thomas report, there's been no indication that our site or the infrastructure that was designed or installed is responsible for the flooding in the abutters. It has not.
The flooding has significantly increased when that project began, and I can testify to that because my room was in that basement for years.
Yeah, but I guess we're asking for a little bit of trust here that we're going to meet our obligations. I mean, we have no choice but to.
I have to be honest, you did not come to the board. You did not call the planner. You knew our emails. You knew how to get in touch with us. You made no attempt to do that. And I find personally that gives me pause when you say it's a matter of trust.
Oh, sure.
Mr. Blaze.
Well, I guess I'm conflicted because we don't really know what direction to go in, and it feels like if we make a decision tonight, we're alienating one party, no matter what.
3 parties.
Well,
Multiple parties.
I mean, I feel like we're in a lose at the moment. One of my suggestions, because of the concern about talking with town council, and I hate to ask you this, to have a conference call or a Zoom or whatever with Eric, Rick, David, and 1 or 2 members, I can't have a quorum, so 2 members of the board, to talk about what our options are
We
legally.
need to have a conversation with town council before we include a conversation with town council and them.
What's in the basement is floating and turning black.
Like I said, I can't call tomorrow morning because town hall's closed. So 8 o'clock Monday morning, I'll be calling.